Live from the Talking Joe studios,
it's Talking Joe with Chief and Chris. Hey, it's me, the Chiefy Two Shoes, and I'm joined by you.
And me, the interrupting Diagnostic 80.
Yeah.
I love doing that. From the Full Force podcast and, of course, Talking Joe. How are you, buddy, on this the second to last episode of the Marvel run?
Yes, the penultimate.
Even.
Yes, the penultimate episode, which is number 52, I think. Episode 52, coming to you live from the Talking Joe studios.
Yeah, because I haven't actually edited 51 yet.
No, we are, as always, in a time machine. Much like the DeLorean.
The Mandalorian.
What do you think are your... Yeah, have you... Okay, let's go there then. Have you watched Mandalorian?
I have. I love it.
Okay.
Have you seen it yet?
I have seen episodes 1 and 2.
Brilliant. But what are your thoughts?
I'll lay it out for you. So, big Star Wars fan.
I just wanted to like it or hate it, but no, we're gonna get the trawl that you get at the beginning of a Star Wars movie now.
I'll keep it simple. I thought it started out very strongly, episode 1. I liked the main character. He was kind of a bit sort of broody, didn't say much. There's that thing where he goes and meets the blacksmith.
Are we allowed to spoil this right now?
Yeah. Oh yeah. By the way, spoilers. Skip ahead probably about 2 minutes.
Just keep
2 to 3 minutes.
It'll be skip Baby Yoda. Skip IG8 dies. Yeah. Skip as well.
Anyway. It's going to contain spoilers. So it started out, like I say, nicely. There's a person who's melting him a new, what's that metal called?
Something steel, but I forget what it's called.
Anyway,
Balzac, something like that.
Building him like a shoulder pad, blah, blah, blah.
Steel, yeah, Balzac steel.
Yeah, Balzac steel. And he's like kind of just bounty hunting. And then it gets a little bit weird when he starts riding on some weird creature. With, like Attack of the Clones, where, Anakin and Padme are frolicking in an open field.
Do not compare The Mandalorian with that utter garbage.
He's kind of riding that strange creature.
Fish hippo. It's a fish hippo.
That's a bit weird. And then there's that. Then it starts going all comedy on me. And with the IG robot, whoever that is, I don't know, it just felt a little bit comedy, and then this Yoda thing pops up. I can't think what the species is. What's the race of Yoda?
I don't think anyone's ever called it out loud, have they? I don't think it's ever been written down or anything.
Yeah, it is a known thing, but I don't know it. But then he pops up, and it's all a bit strange, and my buddy mentioned that it was very Clone Warsy in terms of the Clone Wars animated show, which is amazing. I love the fact that I hate episodes 1. Well, I don't hate episodes 1, 2 and 3, but I have a strong dislike for them as feature films. But the Clone Wars animated, they've made that time period where the movies were shit, they've made an animated show which is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, totally. Series creator George Lucas opted to have many details of the character's life history remain unknown. Yoda's race and homeworld have not been named in any official media, canonical or otherwise, and he is merely said to be of a species unknown by the Star Wars databank.
Yeah, there you go. All right, I stand corrected. Anyway, when he pops up at the end, this little thing, I was like, oh, where's this going? And suddenly the Mandalorian got really chatty, and it felt a bit of a hodgepodge, that first episode. Still very much enjoyed it. Then episode 2, I thought potentially wasn't as good as 1. Most people say it was even better than 1.
I loved it. Honestly, I've just been thoroughly smiling throughout both of these episodes in I feel like there's something really good about it. Yeah, I've just been loving the quality, the acting's cool, the characters are wicked, the actual IG-11 I thought was amazing. I've always wanted to see an IG, like an actual IG droid in action, because obviously IG-88 gets in 5 seconds in that movie.
A cameo, yeah.
And then he ends up in the torture zone or whatever it is. I've wanted to see that for a while, and I was not disappointed. I thought it was amazing. And yeah, there was comedy in there, but I enjoyed that humour. I really did enjoy it. I felt like it's better than the humour that was in The Last Jedi, which I felt the humour in Last Jedi was a bit... That did seem off to me, but I felt like the humour in this was kind of... It wasn't as... They didn't realise it was humour necessarily, the characters didn't realise it was humorous, and I like that. So yeah, I mean, I've really enjoyed it. I think it's great. But anyway,
well, you mentioned there The Last Jedi. Very quickly.
Inside Chief's mind, basically.
No, not yet.
Inside Chief's Jedi mind tricks.
You mentioned The Last Jedi, and I actually watched it for only the second time last week. First time being at the cinema, watched it for the second time. I thought, okay, episode 9's coming up. Let's do a little recap.
Yep.
And I think it is my least favourite of the. I'm going to take a guess here.
All the movies
of the 13 Star Wars feature films there have been.
Yeah, I think it is mine too. Yeah.
I think it's worse than episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, Solo, Rogue One, Clone Wars Animated, and the 2 Ewok movies.
I have to say, I think Attack of the Clones is up there as one of my least favourite films. Phantom Menace is always redeemed for me with Darth Maul and the Duel of the Fates fight, because that is like peak amazing Star Wars, and then the kind of the surrounding elements of that film is shit. But anyway, yeah, enough of this. This isn't a Star Wars podcast.
No, very quickly. I say very quickly at the start of every sentence, but very quickly.
Very slowly.
Three other things I did. I got my slippers, because the other episode where I was in the loft and my feet were like blocks of ice because I forgot my slippers. So now I've got my slippers on, although they are falling apart and they're leaving like bits of black rubber and wool almost all over the floor everywhere. So
get some new slippers, mate. Christmas is coming up.
That's a catch. Yeah, that's a catch, because the secret has been leaked that the kid and the missus want to buy me slippers for Christmas. However, that's like 5 weeks away. So I don't want to go. I can't wear these old decrepit slippers anymore. I can't go 5 weeks without slippers. So what do? Do I buy a pair of slippers?
6 pairs of socks.
So anyway, there's that. But moving on. The other thing I did was...
Are we inside Chief's mind right now?
No, not yet. Okay. You got that to come still.
Jesus.
I downloaded that game that you've been playing, that Transformers mobile game. That's the kiddie. And I reckon I played it for I downloaded it, played it for 3 hours non-stop.
Wow.
And then realised why I hate those kind of games. I know it's not because of the pay-to-play thing. I'm never going to buy credits or anything.
Same.
I think the game can be played without having to spend cash.
Agreed.
There's like a term for it. I can't think what it's called. But however, I hate games that, I suppose this can be disputed, that have no ending. Now, I guess theoretically you could say, well, it does have an ending because you can collect everything, but then
they keep adding stuff though. Yeah.
So I have a massive dislike for, or loathe, in fact, for games that have no ending. So after I realised that after 3 hours, I was like, uninstalled it, deleted it, and then played it again.
Oh, you didn't even join our alliance. That's sad.
No time for that rubbish. So then the other thing I did was I completed The Last of Us.
Brilliant.
Which is
brilliant.
In my top 5 all-time video games. Off the top of my head, at a rough guess, I'd say the other 4 in my top 5 of all time would be NHL 94 on the Mega Drive.
Nice.
It would be Sega Rally on the Sega Saturn.
Cool.
It would be Wipeout 2097 on the PlayStation 1.
Oh, a lot of racing games.
And the 4th selection in there, that's a tricky one, possibly Resident Evil 4 on the GameCube.
Interesting selection.
And what have you been up to?
I've just been working lots, I think just constantly working. That's about it. I'm not going to get into the details because it'll take hours, but just the usual. Lots of editing, lots of podcasting, lots of working, and not much of the other stuff. I must admit, like a few minutes before we came on here, I did play FIFA for the first time in about, I don't know how many months it's been.
Okay, so what version of FIFA? Is it old enough
20.
For us to be able to do a retro game session?
No, it's FIFA 20.
Okay. We'll keep that on hold till next week. Well, having said
FIFA
that,
1920. That they definitely need to bring out like a pre-war kind of old school football game, don't they? Like muddy, the ball's really heavy, all the players can elbow the goalkeeper in the face, that kind of thing.
I did actually switch on my Mega Drive Mini today, just in case we were going to do a retro gaming session. I played about half an hour of Shinobi 3.
Oh, cool. So do you want me to do the retro gaming jingle?
I don't know if I've got enough to say about it other than
hang on, wait.
I'm retro gaming, that's what I'm playing, so don't be shaming, because then you'll be failing. Nintendo power, not in the shower. Sega for the ages, ghouls and ghost rages. Atari Jaguar, how did it get that far? Sony PlayStations gave me sensations. And now I have to go and do some retro gaming. I said retro gaming. And I'm out.
Okay, go.
That's it, I'm done. Played about half an hour. It seems okay, but it's not a patch on Revenge of Shinobi.
It's always good when the theme outlasts the content.
yeah. Well, we've got to cram as much stuff in as we can. So
I spent hours on that theme. It's definitely going in. Anyway, next up.
It's probably time to talk about beverages for the show.
Beverage for the show. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Beverage for the show. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Now I am gonna go do-do and drink my beverage for the show.
Right. I'm not even going to ask who's going first. I'm going first this week.
I've got a Passion Tango herbal tea.
I basically forgot. I did a Chris McLeod. I forgot to buy a drink, or was hard pushed to buy a drink.
Yes.
So I pulled out of the fridge.
Ooh. What were you doing inside the fridge?
Something that I have not had before. Now, like you, I buy a lot of non-dairy, milkish products. So, your almond milk, your coconut milk, all that sort of kind of jazz.
Jazz to Moonbase 2! Jazz to Moonbase 2!
Yep.
And I actually had one in the fridge that I haven't tried before. I didn't buy it for this show, but I did buy it with the aim of using it as something different. And this is hazelnut milk.
Ooh.
So it's an Alpro hazelnut, all plant, deliciously nutty. So let's
nut milk. I love a bit of nut milk.
I'm going to shake it.
How hard must it be to milk a nut? Like, to really just get the milk out of it.
Now then, I can taste hints of hazelnut, which is always a bonus when you're drinking hazelnut milk.
Yes.
It's not as creamy as I thought. And I'm going to have another go.
Is it like a lot looser, shall we say? Is it wetter? Or is it...
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
It's a wet taste. I might try it in coffee. On the side it says tasty in coffee. So I might try that. But it's okay. I'm going to give it a healthy 6.5 out of 10.
Healthy. I like it.
What about you?
I have Tivana Passion Tango herbal tea flavoured with hibiscus and cinnamon. It's a craft iced tea, 14.5 fluid ounces, which is 429 millilitres, 90 calories per bottle, no artificial flavours, metal cap, glass bottle. Here we go.
Is that loud in my house?
Ooh.
Nice sound. Yeah, nice.
It's one of those like metal, that it has to rip itself apart. Here we go. Well, that's yummers. That's really nice. Yeah, I'm into that. Yeah. It's none of the things I expected it to be. Like, I'm expecting loads of passion fruit or whatever passion tango means. But, like, I'm expecting a bit more cinnamon, a bit more hibiscus, some sort of tea. None of those things really hit me.
Right, okay.
Either someone's pissed in a bottle and I've drunk it, or it's just not really what it's, but it's nice. It's lovely. I'm going to give it a 6.5.
Okay, same, copycat. Luckily for everyone involved, I went to the restroom before we started recording. So there'll be no more of that shenanigans.
I even messaged you to tell you and gave you little emojis of what was happening at the time.
You did, yeah. I'll appreciate that for all time. But right now, we do legitimately have to go inside Chief's mind.
Inside Chief's mind.
Boo! Why didn't we go boo for the Halloween one? That made so much sense.
This is more of a general accounting of a period of time in my life rather than me saying people.
Oh, okay.
So the time in my life I refer to is 2 days ago. Now,
it was a different time.
It was a bygone age of Monday, and I'll lay it out for you. So I take the kid to breakfast club before school on a Monday.
Brexit club.
And I have on dropping her off, I have about 15-minute window to get home, pick up my bag, and then run to the train station. Now, I don't take my bag with me to school to drop her off because it's really heavy and I don't want to have to run from the school to the train station and get all sweaty. So I leave it in the porch. So anyone who wants to come and steal my bag on a Monday, you'll find it in an unlocked porch.
It's just got granite blocks in it, though, so there's no point, really. Yeah.
So anyway, we go to school. I thought we were on time and everything was good. Now, when I left the school, I looked at my watch, 12 minutes, need about 15. So I'm like, right, okay, let's break into a bit more of a jog here. And so I'm halfway.
Why do you do it to yourself?
I'm halfway and I'm thinking, right, now last week, the train I catch was actually delayed by 2 minutes, which meant...
This one is going to be well on time.
Which meant I got there in ample time. So I thought, right, I'll slow my jog to kind of like a speed walk so I can still able to access my phone whilst ploughing ahead and check the train time if it's on time, whatever. Check the train, bollocks, it's actually running on time. So now I've got about 7 minutes to go. So I kind of scaled down to, I'm not walking, but I'm not speed walking, but I'm kind of an accelerated walk, if you will. Get back to my house, pick up the bag. As I'm walking up my path to get my bag, sometimes when you're walking and you feel like you've got a stone lodged in the grooves of your sole of your shoe.
Yes.
Yeah, because making that tip-tappy sound
I hate
is a
that.
bit uncomfortable. So I've went to yank out this stone from the bottom of my shoe, yanked it out, and didn't realise it wasn't a stone, it was a piece of glass.
Wow.
Okay. So now I'm like, bollocks, that's really hurt my finger. So anyway, I got my bag, walking down to the train station and go to put my beanie hat on, and then I was like, what's this? Because there's a big patch of blood all over the hat. Look down, my thumb is gushing blood everywhere.
Oh my goodness, you're a walking mess, you know that, right?
So now I managed to get a tissue. I got a tissue out of my pocket, wrapped it around my thumb, and I thought, right, I've got somewhere in my bag a plaster, but I had a route round, couldn't find it. So got to the train station. As I'm walking through the gate at the train station, wait a minute, there's my train. It's just leaving. The train was actually delayed by 3 minutes. Didn't come up on my app when I was looking, and had I have not had the glass in my finger, stopped to look at the train, I would have actually made it. I missed it by about 10 seconds.
Gutted.
So now I'm on the platform, and the next train that I was going to get was delayed by 22 minutes.
Oh my goodness. So
I'm then now thinking, right, I've got to look up to see an alternate route. So I've got my rucksack on, but then in my other hand, there's it's wet as well, so it's rain everywhere, so the platform's soaking. In my other hand, I've got another carrier bag, or it's like a tote bag, so it's kind of cloth. So I don't want to put it down because it's going to get wet, so I'm holding it in my left hand. So I try on my phone to look up the train times, and it's got one of those fingerprint readers on the iPhone. It won't be my fingerprint because my thumb's covered in blood, so it won't open my phone.
Oh my goodness!
To look it up. So then I had to put my bag down or whatever I did. So the bag got soaking, so then I could use my other hand to input the code or whatever to open it up. Then finally, I managed to find an alternate route. Ended up in Canada Water in London. Because I was so later than normal, I'm now during peak commuting time.
Gutted.
And I watched 7 tubes pull up to the station, doors opened, literally one person was able to get on, doors closed, off it went. And there was about 50 people in front of me. So I watched 7 tubes come and go before I was actually able to squeeze on, and then finally got to work about 55 minutes later than I should have been, and with a pissing blood finger and a wet bag and just annoyance all round.
Do you have a strict time to be at work? And that's a stupid question, but sometimes it can be a bit, flex.
Yeah, it's flexy, but I had meetings that I had to be in, which I can dial into, and I can dial into the meeting via my phone. But the problem was I was on the underground at the time when I was supposed to be dialing, so I couldn't even dial in. So it was a bit of a shambles all round, really.
Mate, that's I'm glad you kept it brief, is all I'm saying.
I want to talk about some G.I. Joe comics.
Good.
I'm having some nut milk first, though.
Oh my goodness me.
Comic talk, oh comic talk. Larry Hammer writes them, Chief and Chris discuss them, whoa. Comic talk, oh comic talk. Larry Hammer writes them, Chief and Chris discuss them, whoa.
Right, so we have 152, 153, 154 to talk about here. Let's look at the cover to 152. They're all single issues. So 152, we have got special issue presenting the original adventure of the very first G.I. Joe. And you've got a little kind of caption there, 30th Salute, G.I. Joe, 1964 to 1994. And this is, I guess it's Colonel Joe Colton. Is it readily recognisable as him on the cover? Don't think so.
Yeah, they released a toy kind of in a similar vein around the same time.
But if you're only reading the comics, not collecting the toys,
no, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know.
Other than the fact in the previous issue, I think they mentioned he had to go to Washington, but even that probably doesn't reflect this. But anyway, he's carrying, the flag, and I don't know. It's a bit. The cover doesn't really do that much for me. I don't think.
It's a bit.
Okay, so this is Larry Hama's on script, Phil Gossier's on pencils, Scott Koblish is on inks, colours is by Chi, letters by Vic. That's not Michael Vick, by the way.
Scumbag.
He's dog track. So this is called Just Fade Away, and basically Colonel Joe is being flown to Washington, and actually, let me just skip to the very end, because I've read
General, isn't he? Now
or General,
yeah, he's General. He's General Colton in this current era or time frame, and then the flashback is him as a colonel, because obviously he wasn't a general.
Lieutenant. Then. He's a lieutenant.
Yeah.
So I'm just flicking forward again, as always. Read these issues 20 minutes ago. Already forgot what's happened. I flicked to the back to see what the actual conclusion is of the present day storyline. I don't even know why he's going to Washington.
I don't think they've actually explained that.
Right. Okay.
So anyway, I'm guessing 155 might give us a bit more info on that.
Okay. So anyway, he is at Maguire, AFB, New Jersey, and he is picked up by some nameless guy.
No, it's Ace.
Oh, is it? How do we know it's Ace?
Because it says.
Ace. Bloody hell! I need to do something about remembering things.
It's Ace and he's in the Ghost Striker X16, I think it's called.
Yeah, sounds about right. I'm not going to argue. He is taking him there, and then the issue is a recount of his time in Nam. Not Ace, we're talking about Colton. So when I first read this, so let's just see when this is. This was from September 1994. When I first read this back in September 1994, I was a massive fan, and I think over the years I had potentially soured on it as it being a little bit, I don't know, I felt maybe heavy-handed or whatever, but now having reread it again, I really enjoyed this issue.
Yeah, it's fun, fast-paced, dynamic. There's that whole thing of, his story in Nam, and it's all very violent, and there's lots of, crazy shit going on, and people dying left and right, and then it's about, like, it in a short space of time, I suppose they do manage to build up some sort of, like, relationship between Colton and the other guys, and that obviously helps in the, towards the end of that issue. Yeah, and what initially struck me on reading this again was it's very, like you said, action-packed, hard-boiled, tons and tons. Every page is filled with military slang and jargon and terminology, and it felt very, very apart from the recent issues we've had. Yeah, that's Larry, isn't it? Yeah,
Cesspool, ninjas, and all the kind of, even Cobra Commander being kind of a bit of a jokey parody of a Bond villain kind of thing, which I did enjoy. But you can imagine if this had someone like Russ Heath or some of these other more serious artists, it would even crank it up to another level in terms of its attempt at realism in a sense.
Yeah, totally. I think even when Larry does the kind of crazy stuff, he will throw in that real military jargon, and that does ground a lot of it, doesn't it? When we were reading a lot of the earlier issues. You're right, though. When Larry's off the book, it's so obvious. And when he comes back onto it again, it's really obvious that he's back involved. And I think it would be very easy to go through this without looking at the scripts and just go, all right, okay, you have to work out who's written this.
He's not been off it. He's not been off it yet, though, has he?
He has been off a couple, hasn't he? In the previous issues?
No, that's the next two, 153 and 154.
Oh, okay. I thought he'd been off a couple previously.
No, because he read the last one was the Slam Dance in the Cyber Castle.
I don't mean like immediate recent future. I mean,
right, okay.
I mean recent past. I mean, like, he's been off the book a couple of times in the past where what's his name wrote an issue, Trimpy. Who else wrote issues? There's like about 3 or 4 dotted around in the past.
I think Stephen Grant, but I'm sure that was like 6 years ago. But anyway.
Well, even if it is, what I'm saying is you can tell when he's on it and when he's off it, is what I'm getting at. Like his... Yeah. As soon as he's not involved in the comic, you know fully well why, and it has an effect on it, I think, personally. Yeah. The Phil Gossier art, I think, it's easy to say it's a bit too cartoony in style for this theme and this tone of the book, but I don't know. I'm not
dead set against it. I think there's some really nice panels, and I think generally the artwork's okay.
Yeah, it's cool. It's, again, there's ups and downs in this one for me. Like, there's some really, like, good art. There's one bit where there's a couple of guys are back to back, and there's a helicopter flying, like, you know, crashing in the background behind them, like, on fire. Bullets hitting the dirt next to their feet from an angle from the ground looking up, so you can see, like, one of them dead on the ground, more guys kind of coming out. It's just really like, whoa, that's amazing. And then there, you know, you get to some scenes where maybe there isn't a lot of action, and it, you know, maybe doesn't look great. Like some of the faces between, you know, when like the president turns up, a little off, but you know, it's still pretty cool. I really enjoyed it art wise.
Here's a sample of an action scene with some Larry. You can tell this is Larry Hama script. I put a burst through center of mass of the first one, and then my Mike 1.6 decided to choke on a bulged case. Had the vertical butt stroke number 2 while I pulled the old model 1911A1 on the third VC. I had violated the SOP by carrying that old Colt locked and cocked.
Yeah, that's definitely Larry. I've always called it the M1911A1 just to save time.
What did I call it?
Well,
1911A1.
It was like listening to one of those adverts for like insurance or something. Call M1911. Anyway, yes.
Yeah.
So overall, it's an enjoyable throwback. It's standalone. This could easily have been a special mission issue, and yeah.
And even during all this action, you know, Larry manages to put in some sort of, for want of a better word, tender scenes where one of the dudes has taken it. Who is it? I don't know. I can't remember what the guy's name is. It's not Angel, is it? Maybe it is. He's taken a gut shot, and the lieutenant won't leave him behind, and then they get some blacked out Huey comes to pick him up because they need to take, in a ironic twist of fate where in present day Colton's being taken to Washington. Back in Nam he was kind of picked up and he had to go back to a place of headquarters, which again was Washington eventually, and this Huey's picked him up and they've got strict orders to take him straight there, even though Colton's saying get this man to a hospital stat because we got to patch him up. And he's looking out for his guy, and then when they land and he's bit the dust, he wants to carry him to effectively the morgue and put him in his coffin.
Graves registration, yeah.
Graves registration, yeah. So maybe a bit heavy-handed, maybe a bit cheesy, but you could kind of see that in maybe like a Michael Mann film or something like that. So he's trying to instill the human element in war, I guess.
It's funny, when he gets to the White House as well, and he's like a couple of hours late, and the president turns up. He says, "I'm sorry I kept you waiting, but I did expect you 2 hours ago." Well, if you expected me 2 hours ago, you should be sitting there waiting for me then, shouldn't you, knobhead? Yeah. That's what I would have said in that situation. I'd have called the president a knobhead.
JFK, yeah.
It's funny that they both, and it's JFK, and they both have. There's a really fun little, well, not fun because of what happens with it, but the homage where he says, one of his guys comes in and says, "Mr. President, it's time to get to the airport. We have a busy schedule in Texas this week. We have to be in Dallas by the 22nd. And it's just like, man, that's close, you know?
Place it in history, yeah.
Yeah. But that's interesting, and I quite like that little homage. But yeah.
Yeah, and then it kind of caps it off with they're flying down, and he's like, "Oh, you ready to go?" And he's like, "Just give me a minute, please, thank you." And it's kind of like he's reflecting on, you know, what's happened to him in the past. And the reason he was in the White House was because he is being told to front up this new covert group called G.I. Joe. So he was the initial founder, I guess.
It's nice that JFK is the president that, you know, started G.I. Joe. Like that's kind of a cool, I don't know, like a nice cool like undertone that never really gets talked about or mentioned that often in other media. A lot of the time they are starting in different time periods, so it never really comes up. But it'd be nice if somebody homaged that down the road in a different cartoon or a, you know, comic or something. Yeah,
that'd be great. I've got some pin-ups in the back here. I sent them to you just in case you didn't have them because you weren't reading the singles, and I forgot to send you the Duke one.
Okay.
By Alex Saviuk. So I've got a Duke one, then I've got a Stalker one.
Yeah.
Don't know who did that, but it's kind of coming out of the jungle with some guns. Quite like that one. There's a rock and roll one, which is kind of an action-packed one. There's a Storm Shadow one, fighting some red ninjas.
Yeah, Storm Shadow's really shown off his bits and pieces there, isn't he?
Yeah. Balls to the wall. There's a Scarlet one.
And a Ninja
Force. And then a Snake Eyes one where there's a load of dead cyber vipers at his feet,
There's all
and
sorts. It's
his
great.
mask has been torn off.
Battle core vipers. There's like a nitro viper, and then there's I quite like that one. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I'll post these up on the socials so we can see. What is your Joeage for this issue?
I'm gonna give it a 7. Enjoyed it, but I won't go into too much. It is what it is.
Same, 7 for the Chief. Moving on to 153. This one, Shadow of the Bat on the cover. And it's G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, featuring Scarlet. And she is on the deck reaching for something, be it a weapon or whatever. And there is a Terminator standing over her. Oh, no, sorry. A BAT standing over her. Not overfussed with this cover, to be honest.
Yeah.
I will quickly point out this is plot is by Eric Fain. Script is by Peter Quinhos. And art is Will Rosado. Inks is Jack Snyder. Letters is Vicky Williams. And colours is by Chi. Yes, so what's happening here is Dr. Knox, who is a new character, and she felt like a Dr. Bigglesworth knockoff.
Massive Dr. Bigglesworth knockoff, yes.
Yeah. And what she's doing is she has revamped up the BATs, and she wants to sell the tech to Cobra, even though she's clearly pictured in a Cobra outfit. So don't really know what the working relationship there is, and she has sent it out on a mission to kill Scarlet because she thinks that will show off its capabilities. I don't know, and there's a funny bit here where she actually mentions something like the bat's doing stuff like hunting down Scarlet, and she's like, with this I'll be able to make enough money, I'll be able to open another Swiss bank account. So she's already got... Oh, here you go. I found it. The bat is responding perfectly to my handheld unit. If everything goes this smooth, I'll be able to open another Swiss bank account. So she clearly doesn't need the money, but she's just in it for the lols.
Just put more money in your current Swiss bank account.
Yeah.
Weird. I do believe it or not, I do like the art in this one. It doesn't have the same feeling necessarily as a G.I. Joe issue because the art looks like something I can't quite place it, but it looks like something that you'd see in like 80s Marvel, like where they try and go ultra detail and ultra like every panel they've taken care in, like there's so much care that that the what do you call it, like the anatomy's correct, or that or everyone in scale is correct, and everything around them is like to within an inch, like everything is like perfectly done. Like there's like in some comic books there'll be some panels where like they've rushed the shit out of that. This one looks like they've really taken care with every single brush stroke, and it's not like necessarily it doesn't feel like G.I. Joe to me in the same sense. I mean, how do you feel about that? Yeah,
I think it's story-wise it's more of a special missions, but like you mentioned, art-wise it is a bit more superhero-y, I think.
Yeah, that's what it is,
in the style. And Will Rosado, he did some art where Megatron showed up during that little run.
Yes.
And I think visually his art has progressed massively from then. And going forward, when he's on some Batman books and even the IDW G.I. Joe stuff, it just comes on even further. So I think we're seeing, kind of an evolution of his art style here. And like you, I don't particularly dislike the art, but I think it's just a different style.
It's like I'm reading a different comic. It's not like it doesn't feel like G.I. Joe. And the fact that Scarlet doesn't take a jacket off all the way through is another weird kind of thing for me. Like, I thought the whole point was to reveal it. And look, she's wearing her Ninja Force costume, but you only just see it all the way through the issue. And I don't know, I just found that kind of a weird kind of approach to kind of take.
Yeah, and there's a kind of a weird bit early on where she bumps into someone and it's almost like a look-alike kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, oh, that is definitely going to play a part later. That's going to be a big part. But all it actually does is it's only one page at the end where the BAT mistakes her for Scarlet, and then that's quickly resolved anyway because she backs up a garbage truck into him. But felt like that was going to be a thing, but it never really was a thing.
Yeah, I mean, it was really just like it was one of those things where they bump into each other at the beginning. The woman's a bit of a bitch to Scarlet. Scarlet kind of brushes it off, and she's like, okay, well, it wasn't my fault, but she's obviously just a bitch. And then later on, the bat mistakes her, grabs who's going to kill her. Scarlet saves her life. But the woman, again, continues to act like a bitch to her. So, you nearly killed me. You nearly ran me over with that garbage truck. No, I saved your life, but whatever. And then they go their separate ways. And it's just very much like okay, so is this just a comment on once a bitch, always a bitch kind of thing,
Yeah. Yeah, the theme of non-gun weapons was a bit heavy-handed. So she's on a building site. So we get pickaxes, cement mixers, rivet guns, axes, hammers. She runs the full gamut, Scarlett, of using, workman's tools to try and down this BAT. And it felt like, okay, I'll turn the page. We've had 2 or 3. I was like, what's she going to pick up next?
Hammer. Yeah.
Yeah. So...
Yeah, to me it's another special missions issue, and I kind of feel like you get the feeling now that Joe is, this comic is probably, they know what's happening, they know that it's coming to an end, and they're just filling time before it has to be bookended in a way.
Yeah, I guess. Here's a chance for you to talk toys before the toy segment. We get a mention and a very single panel briefish look at a G.I. Joe razor blade, which is something I've never heard of or seen before, apart from in this one panel of this comic.
Yeah, just a vehicle that came out in 94, I want to say. It looks nothing like that drawing, I'll tell you that much.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, just about close enough, but it's... I'll send you a picture.
Okay. And I've actually got a pin-up in the back of this one. It's Dusty.
Oh, okay.
And he's sitting on a tank with another guy in combat behind him. He's eating some rations. Yeah, it's not bad. It's a bit more serious because there's some enemies with their hands, kind of fingers laced above their heads, being marched in front of them. A bit more of a kind of serious military bit.
I vaguely have a memory of that.
Mike Harris is the artist.
Yeah, they're both kind of like, he's kind of sitting there with the ration pack and like a little spoon in his hand, and he's kind of resting his arm on his knee and everything.
Nice pick. I like it.
Very cool. Very cool.
What's your Joeage on this?
I'm going to go with a straight down the middle 5 because I do like the art. I think but it just doesn't. It's hard to explain, but you get a feeling with certain G.I. Joe stories and comics and stuff, and it just doesn't feel like that. It feels like a little bit of a Terminator rip. There's a new character in it that just is in it, and that's it. What more do we know about Dr. Knox after this? Probably not much than we're ever gonna know. It just felt like a little bit, and the forced areas of like, here's the razor blades to save us. It's just like squeeze that in. So down the middle 5 for me.
I think I am going to copy you this time and go 5. Yeah.
Good man.
Actually, I copied you last time as well.
This, I feel like it's going to be a very similar conversation for the next issue as well. In all honesty.
So, issue 154, G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, featuring Roadblock, flying the unfriendly skies as Roadblock and an air hostess are falling out of the sky. Not overfussed with this cover. However,
doesn't happen in the issue.
Absolutely love this issue. So maybe we won't be similar.
Well, I'm just going to be down the middle, I think.
This is an Amanda Connor cover. Now, Amanda Connor is kind of a big-time DC artist, I guess, now, and she's done loads of stuff across the Supergirl, Power Girl, Superman kind of stuff. So, again, nice to see artists who are prominent in the industry now kind of cutting their teeth some 25 years ago.
Yeah.
So this is called Flying the Unfriendly Skies. This is Peter Quinhos, who scripted the last issue, and I thought this was a massive difference in scripting to the last one. And and Ernie Steiner is on art, Crusher Wallace on inks, Chai on colours, and Vicky Williams on letters. First thing I'm going to say is, opening splash page, Roadblock dressed as a cowboy. Is this something that has been in his kind of profile before? Is he a known cowboy?
No, it's just because he's going to the chili cook-off in Texas or whatever it is. Yeah, that's all it is. It's just to highlight that aspect.
I like this aspect, and I like this look and feel for Roadblock.
I think that opening splash page is brilliant. I love the movement and the fact that the way he's like rushing, and he's got the bags flying all over the place, and it's a really beautiful splash page, I think.
Yeah. Looking at the art in general for the issue, I think there's some bits that are maybe a little bit wonky.
Up and down.
But I love the way this guy draws Roadblock. He draws him very kind of quirky and a little bit off-kilter.
Super exaggerated, muscles-wise.
Super exaggerated. Some great facials for Roadblock in this issue. And I don't know, it's one of those things, it's kind of the Tony Salmons effect where... most people dislike his art. I tended to like the quirkiness of it, and I think this is a similar vein. I'd like to see more of this guy's art. I've never heard of the guy before, but I'm going to look him up. But yes.
Well, I think the art's a strong point in this because it is really, it's consistent in its style. It doesn't change style, I should say. There are ups and downs in some of the panels, but again, like you can forgive that in comics a lot if there's good aspects to it, because and the other thing is, I don't know about you, but like I only really focus on the art because we talk about it on this episode, on these shows. And yes, I'll, to a degree, when I'm doing like Comics Burst, we'll have to obviously focus on the art and talk about it. But when I read a comic without that fanfare, without that stuff, like I'm not doing a podcast about it. If I read a comic and I get to from the beginning to end, and I read it and I'm immersed in it, and I get to the end and I finished it, I was like, whoa, that was cool. And I haven't noticed the art, then for me that is like the perfect thing they could have done. Like if the art is too good sometimes, and you tend to just be looking at it rather than actually reading the comic. I mean, I'm not sure if that's ever happened to you, but there are times when I've gone
detracts from the writing almost.
And sometimes if there isn't a balance with that and the writing, and the art's really good but the writing then I just want nothing to do with it. To me, it's about immersion, and if I can be immersed in the story and I forget what's going on around me, and I just literally I'm in that universe for that small amount of time, then it's done its job and that's the best kind of comic for me.
Yeah. And you touched briefly that Roadblock
I did not, and you can't prove it.
Roadblock is dressed like that because he's going to a chili cook-off where Grandma Hinton's secret sauce is going to hopefully win him the prize. He is at the airport, and he, unbeknownst to him, is a load of cobras have spotted him, and they divert him onto a different plane, which happens to be a Cobra-only aircraft.
Yeah.
And we kind of get a Passenger 57 feel to this episode. And what I did like early on page 2, I think it is, you see some Cobras in a van kind of dressing up in their Cobra uniforms without headgear on, and it felt a little bit Action Force-y.
Yes.
In those early issues of Action Force where nondescript Cobras and Crimson Guardsmen got FaceTime, if you will.
Yep.
That's same kind of things happening here. That the lower, nondescript guys are getting FaceTime with names and kind of personalities and a little bit of, fleshed out character, and I like that.
Totally. And also it probably goes, it's interesting because it's happening now in the current run, the IDW series, Snake Hunt, say that carefully. Okay. But that is currently, you're starting to see a lot of those troopers without that headgear, and I think it's something that definitely needs to be done, because characterization is what makes these comics really good as well. And this is great. Like you, all of a sudden you've got faces to these faceless Cobras that you usually have. Something that this reminded me of as well was that scene in Commando when he has to get off the plane.
Yep.
Excuse me, how long is the flight?
We land in Valverde in exactly 11 hours.
Thank you. And do me a favor. Don't disturb my friend. He's dead tired.
That just reminded me of that. And obviously Roadblock's a hench as dude as well. So it was I could just imagine him elbowing that guy next to him, sitting next to him, in the face, and just going, "Don't wake my friend up. He's dead tired."
I like the bit where it's really fast paced, because as soon as they spotted him, someone's on the horn to someone on the desk.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, fine, we've looked him up. He's a 2-bit cook. He's a freaking 2-bit cook. So I love this scene on page 3, the bottom half of the page, where they're basically all the Cobras on the plane, and they're giving them the rundown. Listen up, we're taking a Joe on board. He's clueless that he'll be flying on a plane full of Cobras. They're basically giving them a rundown. We also have a variety of knives available for your laceration pleasure. Just handing out weapons to all these Cobras for the final shakedown.
I love how Roadblock's all happy because he's been upgraded to first class.
Yeah.
You're screwed,
Little does he
mate.
know. I mean, he straight away. Some guys try to stick him with a needle. He's chucked the chili powder in the guy's face.
I got confused here because I thought he actually did get him with the needle, and it's only when I've looked now that I realise that the needle isn't in him, and you see the drip coming out of the bottom of it. Because initially it looks like it's right in his arm.
Well, it looks like the needle point is a crease on his shirt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that was one of those things where I was like, I was going to say, actually, one of my notes was, how come nothing really was taught? He doesn't even show a lethargicness or anything like that. It's weird that he doesn't have any effect on him. I know he's a big dude, but I'd imagine they would have given him enough to knock a horse out. So that's interesting that I just realised now. I'm like, oh, okay, that's why. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
and I like the fact they kind of give him his counterpart is kind of equal in the hench stake. So you got some guy called Igor,
some Viper,
is basically some steroided up Viper, and they kind of go one-on-one as well. Just it's non-stop action from start to finish, and I don't know. I thought the pacing was great. I really enjoyed the scripting.
When him and Igor are having that fight, and Igor's about to shoot him, and obviously already someone has already shot at Roadblock, and they're all having problems because it's sucking. Like the door opens and all of the air's being sucked out, and they're all getting sucked off. And they're all holding on for dear life. And the Igor goes to get his gun. Goes to shoot him, says, well, if we're all going to die, I'm going to make sure I kill you first, and all this kind of stuff. He says, like, hell no. But thumps him, like, almost out of the door, right? And you see him go, kind of thing, but you don't see him. And then, obviously, later on, he appears again. Where did he, like, how has he stayed in? Has he grabbed, like, the side of the door and pulled himself back in or something? Because I can't see anything.
Yeah, I think I'm going with that. He's gone out the door, and he's just grabbed some part of the fuselage or something, and then whilst Roadblock's off battering someone else, he's crawled his way back in. Let's go with that. Okay,
we'll go with that. That's fine. Anyway, he has to fight his way out, basically, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's just scrapping all along the plane, and in the end, he straps on a chute, doesn't he? And then he picks up like an RPG.
This is great. Because first off, I love how he deals with the pilot that got him on the plane in the first place. And he kind of punches him a bit, and then they're like standing there and like looking at each other. And he says, "You know what this is, mate? This is a missile. I know this particular model, how to set it off manually, and I'm gonna and do you know where I'm gonna shove it?" And then the next panel,
his jacket,
it's flying. And again, this reminds me of True Lies when the guy is hanging off the Harrier missile that Arnie's in control of, and he basically, where the guy's sitting on the missile, he fires it through the building to hit the helicopter on the other side. Just reminds me of that, and him like flying out the back of the plane with this missile attached to his jacket. It's amazing.
Yeah, very good. And then as they're falling out, well, Igor gets the back blast, doesn't he, as well?
Yes.
The second whatever he's firing.
He jumps out with Igor attached to him, and he's like, "You're going to kill us both. I'm going to take that parachute off you." And then, thankfully, Roadblock has also grabbed a missile launcher as well on the way down, and then uses it to fire at the plane that he's like falling away from. But then also the backblast just literally takes Igor right out of the situation, and he just parachutes to safety.
Yeah, and is capped off by him having to eat some tinned chili, which he, at the beginning of the issue, was slagging off. He's like, I'm going for a real chili contest, none of this crap. And now he's having to eat this horrible chili that he's cooking up on the fire. Brilliant.
And then Ace finds him hours later and tips his wings in the Ghost Striker X-16. I love that. That's wicked.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Do we want to do a bullpen bulletin?
Do we need to give this a yo-joage or?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. But this bullpen bulletin was just for the last page.
Sorry. You mean when you quiz me on shit? Here comes the music.
Testing Chris on Marvel Heroes. Will he score big or get lots of zeros with an Iron Man, a Hulk, a Wolverine, a Doctor Doom? Does he know his lizard from his fin fan boom?
Okay, so no actual quizzes in this one, but we have got issues on sale this week.
I bet the Seddons are really upset about that.
Our old favourite. Yeah, no sports trading card talk this week. They are doing high fives.
I suppose the only fashion we could really talk about is Nox, right?
Yeah, but it's not a new outfit, and she's just
Colton,
a new character.
Maybe? Ace gets his new outfit.
Let's save it for next week.
Well, I'm going to throw it in here now.
Armani, Prada, Versace too. Joe's changed their outfits from black to blue. Duke and Hawk, look but don't gawk. Changing their kit, whoa, is that legit? Swapping camo jackets, headgear and boots. It's now neon colours and funky spacesuits. Sci-fi stalker and even Roadblock. While Bill, Flint and Mutt gave me a shock. So go take a walk if clothes aren't your passion. Cause it's comic book talk and lovely G.I. Joe fashion.
There's the music, and I'm going to say Ace, and that's all. We'll move on.
Okay, just because you want to put that in.
Well, Ace
spent time editing it.
He was in the first. Yeah, exactly. He was in the first issue we looked at as well, and obviously that was new. So it's his not only his new get up, but his new plane. Okay, next.
All right, so new one. I'm gonna instead of giving you the first letter and letting you guess the Marvel title, I'm going to give you the description and you can tell me the title.
Well, good luck with that.
Okay. If Hera is here today, will Hercules be gone tomorrow? By Harris, Johnson and Palmer.
So that would be Thor?
No. Issue 380.
Hulk?
No.
Spider-Man?
No.
Well, it's not going to be like... It's not going to be Hercules, is it?
No.
Ares?
No.
No, I haven't got a clue then.
Avengers.
Oh, okay.
He hasn't got a snowball's chance against Hela. By David, Frank and Rubenstein.
Is this related to the previous one by any chance?
No. But I think you did say it as the answer.
Oh, Thor.
No.
Got to go through them all again, have I?
Yes.
Hulk?
Yes.
Okay, that'll do.
Here's an easy one. It's Ghost Rider versus Spider-Man, 2099 style.
Is it Spider-Man 2099?
No.
Is it Ghost Rider?
And the rest?
Is it Ghost Rider and Spider-Man 2099?
No.
Is it Ghost Rider 2099?
Yes. All right, we'll do one more. Let's try this one. A down-and-out singer turns vigilante. It's number one with a bullet by Rainey Del Rivio.
Dazzler?
No.
Singer?
That's not a clue, I don't think.
Oh, okay.
Think more vigilante.
Punisher?
Yes.
Well, I was going to say Punisher before you said think more vigilante, but yeah, the Punisher. Okay.
All right, let's move on. What's our yo-joage for this issue?
I enjoyed this a hell of a lot more than the other. I think it was probably my favourite out of the three. So I'm gonna go with a 7 and a high 7.
High 7. Chiefs popping in with an 8. In the letters column for this issue, actually, there's a bit that says message from Mike, who is the editor. Yo, Joes, hope you enjoyed our double guest stint here in the pages of G.I. Joe, but have no fear, rabid ones. Lethal Larry Harmer returns next issue in an unforgettable story featuring Wade Collins, not seen since issue 43. I'm sure he appeared after issue 43. Didn't he appear when in the Snake Eyes trilogy?
Yeah,
in the 90s.
Yes, you're 100% correct. We had Wade, yeah.
I'm sure we did. Where he popped up on the newsstand.
Yeah.
In his green fatigues.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Okay, fine. So there you go. You got it wrong.
No prize.
Mike.
No prize.
Yeah, no prize. Any other letters to read out here? Don't think so. We'll probably get some from issue 155. So next week we will be covering just issue 155. We will have also a general recap of the run so far, dishing out some awards, etc. So join us then. But right now, I want to hear about toys, and that's where you come in.
Chris talks about toys, ho ho. Chris talks about G.I. Joe. He talks about all the things from the comic book and the animated show. Chris talks about toys. Chris talks about toys. Chris talks about toys. Chris talks about toys.
Chris talks about toys, ho ho. Right, so let's talk.
I'm drinking nut milk.
Let's talk nut milk for let's talk cyber vipers for a second. Now, this would have been done on our previous episode, but we went so long with Chad and Chris Sims that we decided to cut any toy talk because it just would have gone on too long. So now I'm basically supplanting that into this episode, and thankfully there is a cyber viper in the Scarlet issue. So lo and behold, I'm saved. I'm salvaged. So so we've basically got the Cyber Viper 1993. Now G.I. Joe, Hasbro decided to do a line or tried to kind of mix it up with the G.I. Joe line, and they did all sorts of crazy stuff. Obviously we had the Battle Corps, we had Drug Elimination Force before that, we had Ninja Vipers, Ninja Force, we had all that kind of crazy stuff. They went even more insane with the Mega Marines and the Mega Monsters.
Mega Marines!
Cobra City's Mega Monsters are unstoppable!
The Mega Monsters attack with crushing tentacles and gruesome gut bombs. But G.I. Joe Mega Marines come equipped with pressure-molded bioarmor.
Battle damage!
And here's the G.I. Joe Monster Blaster APC with its lock-and-load cannon.
Load, fire!
Mega Marines come with bioarmor. Cobra Mega Monsters and G.I. Joe Monster Blaster APC. Figures and vehicles sold separately. Cave Lab set not available.
You Cobra Monsters are pretty tough, but I'm gung-ho!
Now, the G.I. Joe Mega Marines consisted of, I want to say, 6 figures. It was Gung-Ho, Clutch, Mirage, Blast Off for the Joes, And then there was the Cobra Mega Viper and the Cobra Cyber Viper for Cobra. And then also there were 2 Mega Monsters they brought in, a Bio Viper and a Monstro Viper. And also the vehicle, the G.I. Joe Monster Blaster APC, which was mentioned on a previous episode, that was just dumped in the comic just randomly. Much in the same way, the Cyber Viper has been utilised in the comics like this. Now, the cool thing about the Mega Marines, that I think is pretty cool actually, is the moldable bio armor that came with them. So obviously you get this kind of like, it was basically like a tub of Play-Doh that would come with the figure on the card. So the cards were quite big. You'd have the moldable bio armor, you'd have all the accessories, you'd have the figure, but then also you'd have this like, it was like a plastic kind of shell that was all cool, like design, had crazy like, it was like a mold, like a toy mold, and it would go around the figure, and you'd put the squidgy moldable bio arm around it, and then you'd put this case around it, and basically form this like moldable bio armor around the figure, which I thought was a really cool touch. And I think they did it with one of my favorite ever toys was the Terminator set. It was like a play set where they would have he'd put like the flesh on the Terminator skeleton, basically. It was so cool.
Now create your own Terminator with the BioFlesh Regenerator.
I'm back! Yeah? Think again. Battle damage!
Add flesh compound.
Terminator created.
Terminator!
I'm back!
Similar kind of thing, but with this it was, a bit more manual, a bit small scale. And they did that with all the figures, but the Cyber Viper, I'm kind of picking out on this one because it was just so ridiculously mental in his design. So let's go through the actual figure and how he looks. Now, the figure has a permanently molded mask on its face, and it shows a little bit of the face at the bottom with almost like a thing around, like a bar that goes from the bottom of the helmet and under the chin, which is kind of like a weird design, but I kind of like it, I kind of dig it. He was red, green, and dark grey, so like a lot going on there. And also the helmet was a different colour, so that was like this kind of lighter yellowy green, which matched a lot of his accessories, or I should say his missile launcher. He had the green moldable bio armor case that went with him, and he just had this like really crazy design, like tall spiky shoulder pads in red. He had exposed flesh parts on his arms, like one bit had like a sleeve and the other one doesn't have a sleeve, and one leg is green with grey and the other leg is red with grey, and there's different textures. The guy is all over the place design wise. Now the card art is just gorgeous, like it's just amazing. I can't get enough of this card art. As crazy as the designs are, and I know the Seddons right now are probably sweating because every time I even talk about a figure that isn't the normal, standard kind of design, then they go crazy towards me. So I hope they enjoy the fact that I'm going with the Cyber Viper on this one. But the card art was cool because the cards, obviously, they had a different background. So gone was the digital explosion or the whatever was going on in a lot of the other backgrounds. When you had a sub-team like the Mega Marines, they would do something slightly different. And in the background is this green, like, it's almost like circular ooze, like it's a whirlpool behind him in green. And I thought that was really cool. Obviously the missile launcher fired, and that was a big year. Like they were always doing missile launchers for Joe figures at that point. And if you look at, I'll send you a picture of all of the figures, like from that Mega Marines Mega Monsters kind of line. The colours are just all over the place. Neons, oranges, like it's just insane. The Mega Viper as well is a really crazy kind of pink, like a purpley pink and yellow. It's nuts. So yeah, it was bonkers. Now, the Cyber Vipers themselves, they weren't utilised that much in the comics, but they did get squeezed into a couple of issues towards the end. We just saw one in Scarlet's issue and a couple of issues previous. I think the one we covered with Chad and Simo, obviously, as I said before, contained Cyber Vipers for the first time. Now, I'll read out the bio cards. So, Cybernetic Officers, Primary Military Specialty Cybernetic Operations, Secondary Military Specialty Biointelligence Warfare. We are Cobra's elite cybernetic organisms, walking computers with bad attitudes. Dr. Mindbender created the Cyber Vipers because he needed two things: intelligent soldiers who could handle his highly dangerous bioengineering operations laboratory and keep the genetically enhanced mega monsters under control. The Cyber Vipers do both. They are first-rate fighters with evil brains enhanced by Mindbender himself. They are half man and half robot, and both halves form one tough enemy for the Mega Marines to fight. These cybernetic troopers help control the top-level command operations of the Mega Monsters and are responsible for initiating their destructive attacks. They are the guardians of monsters, the overseers of doom. And then, obviously, with what they were doing a lot around that time was the key underneath the card that showed you what was part of their, the figures. So, like the forearm firing cyber gun, missile launcher, etc., etc. So that is basically the Cyber Viper. Like I said, it was 93 in the US and I believe 93 in the UK as well. So, yeah, that is the Cyber Viper 1993 Mega Marines.
Good stuff. One more to go for this Marvel run, and it won't stop because no one stops making toys. There'll be more from Chris next week. And right now, though, I want to confuse some people because it's time for British colloquialisms, aka over egging the pudding.
We got a pudding, we're gonna egg it. We got a pudding, we're gonna over egg it. We got a pudding, we got no criticisms. That means it's time for some British colloquialisms.
So, a needle pulling thread. My one this week is very localized to about 10 people, probably. I don't know, maybe even less now because some of them are probably dead. Well, I know one of them's dead, and that's my granddad. But anyway, he's the one who came up with this because he used to know a guy called Jimmy Shearing. And now Jimmy Shearing would always, whatever happened to him in life, that was what he wanted to happen. So, for example, he would be, my granddad would tell me stories of he'd be riding down the road and something would go wrong on his bicycle and he'd fall off and he'd be like, that's perfect, I wanted to get off here. Or he had a big long ladder and he was carrying it along and he tripped over and he fell over and it broke in two and he's like, excellent, I needed two short ladders. So whatever happened to him, it was perfect. So when in life, whenever something like that was happening to my granddad or now me, if it happens, perfect, I'd say, oh, that's Jimmy Shearing.
Amazing.
And it actually happened to us here because I had said to Chris, right, let's get online and start the recording. Unfortunately, he didn't get my message till about 10 minutes later, but it was actually Jimmy Shearing because I had to finish off reading the issues and he had to take a piss. So it was actually Jimmy Shearing the way it turned out. So that is my British colloquialism, and I've actually explained it. So it's not a case of, I can't guess what that is. But Jimmy Shearing means when something happens to you and you twist it to be you wanted it to happen anyway.
Brilliant. That's a good one. My one is not one, it's many. And it's the terms we utilise for being drunk. And I think you know what I mean here. It's like, obviously, plastered is one of the original British slang terms for being drunk.
Yep. Bladdered.
Bladdered. It's basically, you just put an ED on the end of it, and all of a sudden, you can use it for being drunk. You're like ratted, wasted. Spanked, wasted.
Yeah.
Literally porridged, pratted, socked, quidded, anything you can think of. Sloshed is another one.
Yep.
I just love the fact that there are so many terms in the British slang terminology that centre around getting drunk, and that should tell you everything you need to know about the British Isles. That are now called the Pedof Isles.
Why can we no longer think of the British Isles without the word pedof in front of them?
Did you ever watch the Day to Day or?
Yeah, that is a funny show.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so I'm not saying everyone's paedophiles in Britain, by the way. But if you've ever seen the Day to Day or what's the other one that kind of was a similar thing? Oh God,
they did the thick of it.
They did a bunch. There's like two news ones though that they did around the same time, but it doesn't matter anyway. Yeah, check that out.
Chris Morris, I think.
Oh God, he's so funny, funny.
Maybe he didn't do thick of it actually, but yeah. I know the ones you mean. Not Newsnight, something like that. Check them out online because they are worth having a view.
Anything with Alan Partridge in it.
Anything with Alan Partridge in it.
Goal!
That was liquid football. Did you see that? He must have a foot like a traction engine.
Go look up Alan Partridge. If you're from the States, go look up Alan Partridge online. It's very, very funny. But right now, it's time for Chief Ask Chris a question. Chief Ask Chris a question. What'll he say? What'll he do when Chief Ask Chris a question?
He'll answer it poorly.
So, again, this was going to be the question last week.
We cut everything out.
No toy talk. We cut it all out. And so I don't know if you've managed to finish editing that episode.
Nope.
I imagine it was a right...
Haven't done it yet. I mean, I'm about a third of the way through.
I don't know how it's going to turn out, but anyway.
Terrible.
My question to you this week, sir, is which for you is your favourite tandem and which, if different, is the best dynamic between these selections? He-Man and Skeletor.
He-Man, look! 2 Skeletors!
Which one is the right one?
I have an idea. Repeat after me. He-Man, I am your friend.
He-Man, I am your friend. He-Man, I am... I can't do it, and I do not look like you.
Come on, let's find Koldar.
Optimus Prime and Megatron.
Prime, one shall stand, one shall fall. Why throw away your life so recklessly? That's a question you should ask yourself, Megatron.
Matt Tracker and Miles Mayhem.
Venom. Man, I've got to keep them away from my road tents.
It's up.
Good shot, Hondo. Into the woods.
Lion-O and Mumra.
Yes. And what do you see in the mirror? Your own reflection, Mumra.
Splinter and Shredder.
A lucky shot, old man. But if you want the Retro-Mutagen Ray, you must first face my blades. And I will beat you, as I did when I was human.
The best out of all of those?
So your favourite, and which one actually has the best dynamic that might not necessarily be your favourite?
I think vintage He-Man and Skeletor had a good dynamic. They all do, really. They're all very, they're polar opposites and they're always, fighting or whatever. Prime and Megatron has been going on for so long that it's evolved into something completely different. It's almost like Prime is now written as a bad guy for the things that he's done, like not war crimes, but the things that he's done in order to defeat the Decepticons. And Megatron almost became like an Autobot anyway in like the last run and the most recent issues. Like he kind of almost came to his senses in a way. So they've kind of changed characters so much over the years that it's hard to say which one I prefer. I think my favourite out of all of them is probably Splinter and Shredder because I'm a huge TMNT fan. Okay. But funnily enough, I'm not a massive fan of them necessarily as their head-to-head because, again, in the comics, Shredder dies in the first issue, the first ever, comics, and then he kind of comes back in a weird way after that. In the current run of issues, he's not really in the picture again, spoiler alert, and in the cartoon... It was very, I don't know. I was always focused more on the Turtles. That's a really hard question, man. I'm gonna say my favorite is Prime and Megatron, and the best one is the best dynamic is probably He-Man and Skeletor.
Okay, good stuff. Who can say if he's right or wrong? Everyone out there on social media can. So join us next week. Well, I'll have one more question for the Marvel run. Or from this run of episodes covering the Marvel run. I don't even know what I'm saying. It's just words coming out my mouth now. I think it's the nut milk has affected me.
I'll give you some nut milk.
Just look at the ingredients. Oh, yeah, it contains poison. Yeah, I'm in trouble now. So join us next week. You'll have all these segments again on the last show. We'll be covering 155, as I mentioned, plus awards. And we have a special guest is coming onto the show. We're going to keep it all hush-hush, but if you are a long-time listener of the show, I strongly suggest you...
Spoiler alert.
...tune in. It's going to be fun times. It's a one-off appearance. Don't miss it. I do want to give a quick shout, actually, to Doug Dello's written in to us. He's written in before, so how you doing, Doug? Nice to hear from you again. Now, he is asking what we're going to be doing after we finish the Marvel run. Are we going to move on to the Dark Horse and Devil's Due stuff and Image stuff? I think we are going to. I think that is the plan. And he's saying, where can he get hold of that? I'm not sure. I don't know if you can get that digitally. I don't know if you can legally get that digitally. You must be able to. But I will do some research, Doug, and I will let you know where the best place to get that is. And he says he's batting about 500 on the British colloquialisms. So well done.
Nice. Good work. So am I.
You can find us in all the usual places. That is talking_Joe on Twitter, Talking Joe Comics on Instagram, talkingjoecomics@gmail.com if you want to write to us, or Talking Joe, a G.I. Joe podcast on Facebook. We're at this moment in time, we're on 489 Twitter followers. Let's try and get 11 more by the end of the year. I think we're going to have the final episode next week of the Marvel run, and then we may well try and squeeze 1 or 2 specials in before the start of the new year, not really branching out into any of the US publications, but just specials. We'll give you more details next week, hopefully, and then we'll be rebranding, relaunching in the new year, covering whatever.
Talking whatever, we'll call it, right?
Talking whatever in 2020. So where can the fine people, if you want to hit me, get me on Chiefy Two Shoes on Twitter, where can the people find you, sir?
Diagnostic80 on Instagram and Twitter, and of course the Full Force podcast on Podbean, iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Patreon, Facebook and Twitter as well. So yeah, check us out.
Yeah, good stuff as always. I felt this issue was tight. This episode was tight today.
Tight as
I think it was good. With all that said and done though, we'll see you down the road.
Cheerio.